My name is Ethan Walsh. I'm 31 years old, and 4 days after I collapsed at work, my family posted a smiling photo titled Family Day without the drama. While I was hooked to machines, they were eating by the lake. When they finally texted, it wasn't, "Are you okay?" It was, "We need you." Answer immediately. They thought I'd still obey. But what they didn't know was I was done being their oxygen. Before I continue, tell me where you're watching from. And hit like and subscribe if you've ever been betrayed by your own family. Because what happened next wasn't about revenge, it was about finally cutting the strings they'd used to control me my entire life. And trust me, they never saw it coming. I grew up in a house where silence was louder than shouting. My father, Douglas, didn't need to raise his voice. His disappointment did the job for him. If he sighed, we froze. If he smirked, we knew someone was about to be humiliated. And somehow, that someone was always me. My sisters, Vanessa and Amber, were the golden ones. Vanessa had charm and timing. She could wreck Dad's car and still get hugged afterward. Amber was sweet-faced and soft-spoken, the angel who cried on cue whenever trouble came her way. I was the fixer, the background noise, the one who held it all together while pretending I didn't notice the cracks. When I was 12, I won first place at the state science fair. My project, a solar-powered irrigation model, was featured in the local paper. The headline read, "Teen Innovator from Seattle's Suburbs Wins Big." My mom clipped it, smiled faintly, and said, "Oh, that's nice, honey. Did you thank your teacher?" My dad didn't even look up from his newspaper. Vanessa, on the other hand, had just made the cheer team that same week. He took her out for steak to celebrate. I got leftovers from their dinner, cold fries in a takeout box. That night, while everyone else laughed in the living room, I ate in the kitchen under the flickering fluorescent light. I told myself it didn't matter, but I remember the taste, grease, and quiet resentment. By 18, I had a full scholarship for engineering. My dad called it luck, not effort. Around that time, his car got repossessed. I'd saved some of my scholarship money for textbooks. But he said, "You're the man of the house now, Ethan. Step up." So I did. I paid off his loan, thinking it'd buy peace. Instead, it bought silence, the kind that says, "We expected nothing less." College was an escape I never really got. Every phone call from home came with a favor. Vanessa needed help with rent. Amber's tuition was short. Mom's card declined at the grocery store again. "You're doing so well, sweetheart," she'd say. "We're just so proud of you." Proud didn't mean anything when pride came with a dollar sign attached. When I turned 25, Vanessa decided to start her own wellness studio. It sounded noble: mindfulness, positivity. Find your balance. She asked me to co-sign the loan, just for 6 months. I hesitated, but Dad stepped in with that voice he used when pretending it was all reasonable. "Family helps family," he said. "You want your sister to fail?" I signed. 6 months turned into 2 years. The studio went under after she spent more on scented candles than actual marketing. When the collectors started calling, Vanessa blocked their numbers and posted a quote online. "If it costs you your peace, it's too expensive." I laughed out loud when I saw it. My credit score had just dropped 100 points. Still, I didn't cut her off. I told myself it wasn't worth the fight. That phrase, "not worth the fight," became the story of my 20s. Thanksgiving arguments, Christmas guilt trips, birthdays overshadowed by someone else's crisis. Each event chipped away at something I didn't realize. I was losing my sense of being real, of being seen. There was one night that still sticks with me. It was pouring rain, the kind that turns everything silver. I'd just driven home from a 12-hour shift. Vanessa was waiting in my parking lot, mascara smudged, saying she just needed to borrow my card again because her rent was late. When I told her no, she started crying. Then Dad called, his voice sharp. "She's your sister, Ethan. You're supposed to protect her." That word "supposed to" felt like a chain tightening around my neck. I gave her the card. She said she'd pay me back next week. I never saw that money again. But what hurt wasn't the loss, it was the look on her face when she took it. That mix of entitlement and pity, as if I'd done the bare minimum. By 30, I'd built a good life, or at least the appearance of one. I had a stable job, a decent apartment, and a carefully managed routine. I'd call Mom every Sunday, just to hear her tell me how proud they were of Vanessa's brand or Amber's journey. When I mentioned my own promotions, she'd say, "That's nice, honey," before asking if I could Venmo the electric bill. The last time I visited the Walsh house before everything fell apart, it smelled like lemon cleaner and denial. Dad was sitting in his recliner, beer in hand, watching sports. Mom was rearranging the same shelf she'd been dusting for 20 years. Amber scrolled through her phone. Vanessa filmed a video about gratitude. No one looked up when I walked in. I remember thinking, maybe I should stop coming here. But then Dad said, "Glad you made it, son. We were just talking about you." I felt something loosen in my chest. Hope. Maybe. Then he added, "Vanessa's having some trouble with her credit card again. You'll help her out, right?" That was the moment I realized they didn't see me anymore. I wasn't their son. I was their safety net. I didn't know it back then, but that realization, that quiet fracture, was the beginning of the end. There's a kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from work. It comes from carrying a family that pretends you're not holding them up. By the time I turned 31, I'd stopped hoping for anything different. Every visit, every call, every text from them had a purpose disguised as concern. "How are you?" always meant, "Can you help?" At work, I was the calm one, the guy who fixed things no one else could. My manager once told me, "You've got the patience of a saint." I wanted to laugh. Patience wasn't a gift, it was survival. You learn it when you grow up in a house where gratitude feels like a myth. It was early summer, the year before everything fell apart, when the real cracks started to show. Dad had been out of work for months, still insisting on keeping up appearances. He'd wear old suits to the grocery store like he was heading to an office that didn't exist anymore. Mom played along, smiling at neighbors, pretending everything was fine. Vanessa, now calling herself a lifestyle coach, had maxed out 2 credit cards. Amber was posting inspirational quotes about self-worth while living off my quiet transfers. I didn't even question it anymore. I just budgeted my life around their chaos. Rent, insurance, groceries, then whatever was left. I divided 3 ways. That July, I got promoted. The company sent out a newsletter, my photo next to the headline, "From engineer to systems lead." I forwarded it to my mom, thinking maybe this time they'd care. An hour later, she replied with a thumbs up emoji. A thumbs up. No call. No, "I'm proud of you." Just a digital shrug. 2 days later, Vanessa called. "Hey, big shot," she said, her tone sweet and cutting at the same time. "Since you're doing so great, I was wondering if you could help with something small." Small meant $2,000. I told her I couldn't. Silence. Then the sigh. "Wow, money really changes people, huh?" She hung up. That night, she posted a photo captioned, "Sometimes family are the first to forget where they came from." The timing wasn't an accident. I didn't comment. I didn't defend myself. I just sat there in my dark apartment, scrolling through her followers' comments. "You're too kind, girl. Some people don't deserve you." Each heart emoji felt like a nail hammered into my patience. When Thanksgiving came around, I almost didn't go. But Mom begged. "Just come home," she said. "It's tradition." So I did. The air smelled like turkey and tension. Vanessa was filming herself arranging the table. Amber was pretending to help, and Dad was barking instructions from his recliner. I placed the last fork when I heard him laugh. "Look at our family helper," he said, lifting his phone. "Always the worker bee." Click. Flash. I thought he was joking until Vanessa posted the video later that night. The caption read, "Some things never change, our family's reliable handyman." I became a punchline to 1,000 smiling strangers. I didn't say a word. I just went home, sat in the dark, and stared at the screen until it dimmed. There was a ringing in my ears that didn't stop for hours. I told myself I was fine, but the truth was, something inside me had quietly broken years before it just finally cracked loud enough for me to hear. By December, the company was in crunch mode. Late nights, back-to-back meetings, caffeine replacing sleep. My chest had been tightening for weeks, but I ignored it. I had bills, deadlines, expectations. You don't take time off when people depend on you, even if they never show up when you fall. That Monday morning, I remember standing up to grab a file and feeling everything tilt. A split second of black. Then, nothing. When I woke up, it was all white noise and hospital light. Machines beeping, cold air against my skin. My first thought wasn't, "Am I dying?" It was, "Did anyone call my family?" The nurse said yes, they'd been informed. "They should be here soon," she added with a kind smile. They weren't. Day 1, no calls. Day 2, silence. Day 3, An Instagram notification. Vanessa tagged me in a photo. Mom smiling. Dad grilling. Amber laughing. Family day without the drama. I read it again and again until the words blurred. It wasn't the cruelty that hurt, it was the normalcy. They didn't hate me. They just didn't care enough to remember I existed. That night, I made myself a promise. If I made it out of that hospital, I would never go back, not to the house, not to the roles they'd assigned me, not to being the one who always paid for their peace. When the doctor came in the next morning, I asked when I could leave. He told me to rest a few more days. You've been under extreme stress, he said. You need to slow down. Slow down. I almost laughed. That's the thing about people like me. You only learn to slow down when your body forces you to. On the fourth day, my phone buzzed. 74 missed calls. One text from Dad. We need you. Answer immediately. No apology. No concern. Just control. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I called a number I hadn't dialed in years, my grandfather's. He answered on the second ring. So they finally broke you too, huh? That was the first time in my life I felt seen. And I didn't know it then, but that phone call was the beginning of the end and the quiet start of something else. Something colder. Something that would finally make them listen. Henry showed up that afternoon, carrying a worn leather briefcase and a paper bag that smelled like soup. He didn't say much at first, just sat beside me and started unpacking. They didn't come, he finally said, not as a question, just a statement. I nodded. My throat felt tight. He didn't offer pity. That's what I'd always liked about him. He just poured the soup into a plastic cup, handed it to me, and said, "You're not crazy for expecting decency. You're just surrounded by people who confuse love with leverage." We didn't talk about family after that. Not for hours. Instead, he helped me go through the chaos they'd left behind. The unpaid credit cards, the cosign loans, the shared accounts I'd forgotten existed. It was like peeling back wallpaper and finding mold underneath. For every favor I'd done, there was another hidden hook. By evening, I'd closed 4 accounts and flagged 2 for fraud review. Henry leaned back in his chair and said, "They'll come running when they notice." He was right. That night the first wave hit. 20 missed calls from my father. 5 texts from my mother. Vanessa sent a screenshot of her bank balance with the words, "What did you do?" Amber wrote, "You're overreacting. Let's talk." I didn't respond. The next morning, the hospital social worker came in with a nervous look. "There's someone downstairs asking to be listed as your medical proxy," she said. "She says she's your sister." Amber. Of course it was. I told her no one from my immediate family had any authority over me. She nodded, made a note, and left. 10 minutes later, security escorted Amber out of the lobby after she tried to visit my doctor directly. She looked furious when I saw her through the glass doors, phone in hand, lips moving fast, probably calling Dad. By lunchtime, the messages started sounding less worried and more demanding. "Dad, you're about to destroy everything we've built. Call me now. Vanessa, you're not the victim here. Ethan, you're making it impossible to help you. Mom, your sisters are crying. Please, stop this before it goes too far." Too far. They'd left me in a hospital bed for 3 days, but cutting them off was too far. That night, Henry came back with someone else, Patrick Rains, his old colleague who now handled estate and identity law. Patrick looked at the stack of papers on my bedside table and whistled. "You've been carrying a whole family's debt on your shoulders," he said. "It's time to make it legal, cut them off completely." We spent the next 3 hours filing digital forms. Fraud alerts, account freezes, transfer closures. Henry handled the financial side. Patrick drafted a cease and desist to prevent any further use of my personal information. Every click felt like another brick sealing a wall between me and them. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed again. A voicemail from Dad. I pressed play, half expecting another demand. Instead, his voice was low, almost trembling. "You think you're better than us now? After everything we did for you? You ungrateful piece of—" He stopped mid-sentence, exhaled, then said, "You'll regret this." Click. End. The next morning, I woke up to something new. A string of messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years, cousins, old friends, even a coworker. Each one asked some version of the same question. "Are you okay? What's going on with your family? Why are they posting about you?" Confused, I opened Instagram. Vanessa had uploaded a video. Soft lighting, sad piano music, puffy eyes. She sat in her car, looking straight into the camera. Sometimes, she began, mental illness doesn't look like what you expect. My brother's been struggling, and we're all trying to help him, but he's pushing everyone away. Thousands of comments. You're so strong, Vanessa. Sending love. Hope he gets better. I just stared at the screen. My pulse steadied, not from calm but from clarity. This wasn't concern, it was strategy. They weren't saving me. They were saving face. I closed the app, turned off my phone, and said quietly, let them play. Henry looked at me from across the room. You ready to fight back? I didn't look up from my paperwork. No, I said. I'm ready to end it. The following days were like watching a slow-motion implosion, except I was the only one standing still while they scrambled to contain the damage. Every move they made to control the story just made it worse. By the weekend, Vanessa's video had gone viral. People reposted it, praising her honesty about mental health. Amber jumped in with a teary live stream about forgiveness. My mother commented on both with hearts and prayers. It was all so perfectly staged that if I hadn't lived it, I might have believed them too. Henry showed me something that made my stomach twist. They filed for emergency conservatorship, he said, sliding a folder across the table. Your father signed as the petitioner, claiming you're mentally unstable due to a cardiac episode. They're trying to get access to your accounts. For a moment, I didn't breathe. Then I laughed quietly, bitterly. They really think they can own me again. Patrick, the lawyer, already had a plan. We'll preempt it. We'll submit medical proof you're fully competent. The court won't even entertain it. Within 24 hours, Patrick filed everything: doctor's letters, hospital records, employment verification, all signed and notarized. Henry called in a favor with a local judge he'd once mentored. The petition was dismissed before it even hit the docket. But that didn't stop them. That night, Vanessa posted again. Her eyes red, voice trembling. We tried everything. We even reached out legally. But he's just gone. Please pray for our family. The comments flooded in sympathy, pity, outrage at me. They'd built the perfect narrative. The ungrateful son who lost his mind and turned on the people who loved him. I thought about staying quiet, letting it fade. But silence was their weapon, had been my whole life. This time, I wasn't going to let them use it against me. Lauren, an old college friend who now worked as a journalist, called after seeing the videos. Ethan, she said, this isn't just manipulation, it's defamation. Do you want people to know the truth? Yes, I said, but not through me. She spent a week fact-checking everything. Medical records, bank transactions, social posts. She even found timestamp data proving they were at that lake posting Family Day without the drama while I was in the ICU. When the article dropped, the headline was brutal. The family that left their son in the ICU. It spread fast. Reddit, Twitter, TikTok, everywhere. People found old posts, screenshots, comments. The internet did what it does best, it dug. A neighbor commented under Vanessa's video, funny how you were all smiling at a picnic while he was in the hospital. Someone else found Amber's public Venmo history weekly transfers from me, labeled help and bills. The narrative flipped overnight. The same crowd that had called them brave now called them monsters. Brands pulled sponsorships from Vanessa. Her followers dropped by tens of thousands. Amber deleted her account after her fake tears became memes. Dad didn't take it well. His company received complaints from clients citing ethical concerns. Within days, he was placed on leave, then fired quietly. Mom texted me once, please, can we talk? I didn't respond. Henry called it poetic justice. I called it silence finally used correctly. But then came the real twist. Henry came over one morning holding a thick folder. His hands shook slightly as he sat down. I've been preparing for this for a while, he said. Inside the folder were legal documents, trust transfers, estate protections, and one name written across the top. Walsh Independent Trust. Beneficiary, Ethan Walsh. He looked at me, eyes steady. They can't touch a cent of this now. You're the only one who didn't ask for anything, and that's exactly why you're the one who deserves it. For the first time in months, I couldn't speak. Not from shock, but from something unfamiliar: relief. Later that night, I opened social media again. Vanessa had posted a final video. The caption read, "We lost everything, but we'll rise again. Family is forever. The photo attached showed my parents standing in front of their empty house, a foreclosure notice taped to the door. I watched it once, then turned my phone off. They thought they were telling a story about forgiveness. They didn't realize it was actually a confession. It was snowing the morning everything finally broke. The kind of slow, silent snow that makes the world look too peaceful for what's actually happening underneath. I was sitting by the window at Henry's cabin, coffee cooling beside a pile of documents, when the doorbell rang. Henry opened it before I could move. Patrick, my lawyer, stepped inside, his coat damp, his face unreadable. They tried again, he said flatly. A second conservatorship petition, different firm this time. Same claims. They're desperate. I didn't flinch. Let them be. He handed me an envelope. We already filed the counter. You're protected. But this time, there was something else. He unfolded a sheet of paper, an email chain between my father and Amber. The subject line read, "Urgent. Narrative control." It was like reading a script of my own erasure. Lines about how to present Ethan as unstable, how to appear compassionate online, and leverage emotional appeal to regain influence. Even notes on timing when to post, what to wear, which hashtags to use. Henry read silently beside me, jaw tightening. They didn't just betray you, Ethan. They built a campaign. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every memory of them: holidays, birthdays, hospital rooms, and realizing none of it had ever been about love. It had been about ownership. The next day, Lauren texted me a link. You should see this. It was a live broadcast from Vanessa's page. A soft piano played in the background, her voice trembling. Sometimes, she said, family means forgiving even when you're hurt. My brother has chosen distance, but we're praying for his healing. Amber joined halfway through, nodding solemnly. Then my mother appeared, tear-streaked, whispering, "We just want him home." And then my father stepped into frame. For a second, the mask slipped. His eyes weren't sad. They were furious. "He's being manipulated," he said, voice low. "But he'll learn." That was his mistake. Because Lauren's article had already gone viral again, updated with the leaked emails Patrick had filed in court as evidence. Screenshots from that narrative control chain. Direct proof of their plan. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. The live stream was still running when the public saw the truth. Comments flooded in instantly. "You planned this? How dare you fake mental health for sympathy? Monsters. Absolute monsters." Vanessa's eyes flicked off-screen, confusion giving way to panic. Amber whispered something. My dad stepped closer to the camera, but someone in the live chat typed, "Check your email, Douglas." Within seconds, realization hit his face. He turned away. The live stream ended abruptly. It was over. By that evening, the fallout had spread everywhere. Brands dropped Vanessa overnight. Local news outlets picked up the story. Family exploits mental health narrative to cover financial fraud. My father's old co-workers shared the article on LinkedIn. Disgusted. My mother's friends stopped replying to her posts. Henry watched the chaos unfold quietly. "You didn't lift a finger," he said. "No," I replied. "I just stopped covering theirs." 2 days later, a courier arrived at the cabin. A thick white envelope addressed in my father's handwriting. Henry looked at it, then at me. "You don't have to open that." But I did. Inside was a handwritten will, freshly dated. The words were crooked, angry, rushed. "Ethan Walsh is disinherited until he returns to this family and reconciles." I stared at it for a long time, then laughed softly, genuinely. It was his last attempt at control, the last leash. I placed the paper on the table and said, "Then I guess I'm finally free." Snow kept falling outside, blanketing everything in white silence. For the first time, that silence didn't suffocate me. It felt like peace, cold, clean, and deserved. The days that followed were eerily quiet. No more calls, no more messages, just the sound of snow melting off the roof and the low hum of the heater in Henry's cabin. For the first time in years, no one needed anything from me. No guilt, no expectations, just stillness. Henry spent most mornings on the porch, reading the paper. Every so often, he'd glance over and say, "You know, peace can feel strange when you've lived too long in chaos." He was right. I wasn't used to breathing without waiting for someone to choke the air out of me again. Patrick finalized the last of the legal filings. the no-contact order, the revocation of emergency proxy rights, and my favorite, the official letter of inheritance transfer. Everything my grandfather had protected was now secure under the Walsh Independent Trust, untouchable. My parents knew Will couldn't touch a single cent of it. I didn't post anything. I didn't celebrate. I didn't even tell Lauren. I just mailed one final envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper, simple. Typed. No signature. It read, "You don't need to worry about me anymore." You never really did. Henry asked what it was. I told him, closure. Weeks later, Lauren sent me a link. A small news segment had aired just a few minutes long about a local family under investigation for falsifying financial records related to influencer sponsorships. No names mentioned, but the footage of their empty house said enough. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just closed the laptop. Before bed that night, Henry poured 2 glasses of bourbon. He raised his and said, to silence. I raised mine back, to never needing to explain. And somewhere in the distance, my phone buzzed with one unread message from an unknown number. I know what you did. I turned off the phone. Peace has a funny sound to it. Sometimes. It sounds exactly like revenge. If you've ever been the one who held your family together until it broke you, this story was for you. Sometimes walking away isn't cruel, it's survival. And sometimes silence is louder than every apology you'll never get. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and hit like and subscribe if you've ever had to choose peace over people who claim to love you. Because trust me, this story isn't over. There's always another truth waiting to be told.